Thomas Alva Edison was born in Milan, Ohio, on February 11, 1847, and grew up in Port Huron, Michigan. He was the seventh and last child. Edison only attended school for a few months and was instead taught by his mother. Much of his education came from reading R.G. Parker's School of Natural Philosophy and the Cooper Union for the Advancement of Science and Art. Edison developed hearing problems at an early age. The cause of this deafness has been attributed to a bout of scarlet fever during childhood and recurring untreated middle ear infections. Edison became a telegraph operator after he saved 3-year-old Jimmy McKenzie from being struck by a runaway train. Jimmy's father, station agent J. McKenzie of Mount Clemens, Michigan, was so grateful that he trained Edison as a telegraph operator. Edison's first telegraph job away from Port Huron was at Stratford Junction, Ontario, on the Grand Trunk Railway. In 1866, at the age of 19, Edison moved to Louisville, Kentucky, where, as an employee of Western Union, he worked the Associated Press Bureau Newswire. Edison requested the night shift, which allowed him plenty of time to spend at his two favorite pastimes, reading and experimenting. One night in 1867, he was working with a lead-acid battery when he spilled sulfuric acid onto the floor. It ran between the floorboards and onto his boss's desk below. The next morning, Edison was fired. One of his mentors during those early years was a fellow telegraph inventor named Franklin Leonard Pope, who allowed him to live and work in the basement of his Elizabeth, New Jersey home. Some of Edison's earliest inventions were related to telegraph, including a stock ticker. On December 25, 1871, at the age of 24, Edison married 16-year-old Mary Stilwell, whom he had met 2 months earlier. She was an employee at one of his shops. They had 3 children. The invention that first gained him wider notice was the phonograph in 1877. This accomplishment was so unexpected by the public as it appeared almost magical. His first phonograph recorded on tinfoil around a groove cylinder. Despite its limited sound quality and that the recordings could only be played a few times, the phonograph made Edison a celebrity. Edison's major innovation was the establishment of an industrial research lab in 1876. It was built in Menlo Park, a part of Raritan, New Jersey, now named Edison, New Jersey. Edison was legally attributed with most of the inventions produced there. In 1878, Edison began working on a system of electrical illumination, something he hoped could compete with gas and oil-based lighting. Many earlier inventors had previously devised incandescent lamps, including Alessandro Volta's demonstration of a glowing wire in 1800. After many experiments, first with carbon filaments and then with platinum and other metals, Edison returned to a carbon filament, and on November 4, 1879, filed for U.S. patent 222,898 for an electrical lamp using a carbon filament or strip coiled and connected to platina contact wires. This was the first commercially practical incandescent light. In 1878, Edison formed the Edison Electrical Light Company in New York, with several financiers, including J.P. Morgan. The company established the first investor-owned electric utility in 1882 on Pearl Street Station, New York City. On September 4, 1882, Edison switched on his Pearl Street generating station's electrical power distribution system, which provided 110 volts direct current to 59 customers in Lower Manhattan. On January 19, 1883, the first standardized incandescent electric lighting system employing overhead wires began service in Roselle, New Jersey. As Edison expanded his direct current power delivery system, Edison expressed views that AC was unworkable and the high voltages used were dangerous. As George Westinghouse installed his first alternating current systems in 1886, Thomas Edison struck out personally against his chief rival, stating, "Just as certain as death, Westinghouse will kill a customer within 6 months after he puts in any system of any size." By the end of 1887, Edison Electric was losing market share to Westinghouse, who had built 68 AC-based power stations to Edison's 121 DC-based stations. Mary Edison died at age 29 on August 9, 1884, of unknown causes. On February 24, 1886, at the age of 39, Edison married the 20-year-old Mina Miller in Arkin, Ohio. They also had 3 children together. Madeline Edison in 1888, future governor of New Jersey Charles Edison in 1890, and Theodore Miller Edison in 1898. Thomas Edison's staunch anti-AC tactics were not sitting well with his own stockholders. By the early 1890s, Edison's company was generating much smaller profits than its AC rivals, and the war of currents would come to an end in 1892 with Edison forced out of controlling his own company. That year, the financier J.P. Morgan engineered a merger of Edison General Electric with Thomas Houston called General Electric. General Electric now controlled 3/4 of the U.S. electric business and would compete with Westinghouse for the AC market. Edison was granted a patent for the motion picture camera. He did the electrical mechanical design while his employee W.K.L. Dixon, a photographer, worked on the photographic and optical development. Much of the credit for the invention belongs to Dixon. In 1891, Thomas Edison built a kinetoscope, or peephole viewer. This device was installed in penny arcades where people could watch short, simple films. Edison's film studio made close to 1,200 films. The majority of the productions were short films showing everything from acrobats to parades to fire calls, including titles such as Fred Otz's Sneeze, The Kiss, The Great Train Robbery, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and the first Frankenstein film in 1910. Edison became concerned with America's reliance on foreign supply of rubber and was determined to find a native supply of rubber. Edison's work on rubber took place largely at his Botanic Research Laboratory in Fort Myers. The laboratory was built after Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, and Harvey Firestone pulled together $75,000 to form the Edison Botanical Research Corporation. Initially, only Ford and Firestone were to contribute funds to the project while Edison did all the research. Edison, however, wished to contribute $25,000 as well. After testing over 17,000 plant species, Edison decided on Leavenworth's goldenrod. The plant, which normally grows roughly 3 to 4 feet tall with a 5% latex yield, was adapted by Edison through crossbreeding to produce a plant twice the size and with a latex yield of 12%. Despite his frail condition, Edison was at the throw of the first electric multiple-unit train to depart Lackawanna Terminal in Hoboken, New Jersey in September 1930, driving the train the first mile through Hoboken Yard on its way to South Orange, New Jersey. Edison died of complications of diabetes on October 18, 1931, in his home in Llewellyn Park in West Orange, New Jersey. He is buried behind the home. Several places have been named after Edison, most notably the town of Edison, New Jersey. The small town of Alva, Florida, just east of Fort Myers, took Edison's middle name. In West Orange, New Jersey, the 13.5-acre Glenmont Estate is maintained and operated by the National Park Service as the Edison National Historic Site, as is his nearby laboratory and workshops, including the reconstructed Black Maria. The United States Navy named the USS Edison DD-439, a Gleaves-class destroyer, in his honor in 1940. The ship was decommissioned a few months after the end of World War II. In 1962, the Navy commissioned USS Thomas A. Edison SSBN-610, a fleet ballistic missile nuclear-powered submarine.